Hello, fishy. Room. Man, she purrs. Hello, wild people. Welcome to AK Wild One. If you'd like your long-distance backpacking trip to fire on all cylinders from the start, well, you've tuned into the right place. Today I'm going to talk about 12 tips to help your backpacking trip get off to a great start. Well, all your bags are packed and you're ready to go, and you're praying it ain't gonna snow. The tips I'm about to share with you will ensure that your long-distance hike starts off on the right foot. I know, that's such a terrible pun. This is not the definitive list. I had to stop at 12 tips. Please feel free to list some more tips that long-distance hikers should follow before they head out on their adventure. I can make another video featuring those ideas. Tip number 1, practice lighting your stove. Remember, flame first, gas last. Practice setting up your tent. I think there's a lot of hikers who set up their tent for the first time on the first night of their long-distance trip. That's probably not the best idea. So practice setting up your tent and maybe even doing it at night. And then maybe you might want to adjust your poles or make a marker on your trekking poles if you have a trekking pole tent to the best height, to the optimal height. That'll save you time once you get to camp. You're going to want to have a sense of how much space your tent takes up right away before you even get started, because that way you can determine quickly whether or not a camp spot will work or is suitable for your tent. Tip number 3, practice using your water filter and backwashing it. And then remember to keep it from freezing at night. Sometimes it will seem painfully slow. Figure out an accessible place on your pack to put the water filter and bladder bag, because you'll probably be using it a lot. Tip number 4, practice sending a message using your Inreach if you're carrying one. It took me a while to figure out setting up my Inreach. It can be a little wonky, and I'm glad I did spend the time to enter my contacts and then practice sending messages to people who I wanted to stay in contact with during the trip. So that's time well spent. Okay, tip number 5, make yourself very familiar with the FarOut app if you're going to be using that on the trip. Make sure you know how to download new section maps, how to identify water sources, campgrounds, possible resupply locations, and how to find out information about trail conditions and how you can actually leave comments for others to benefit from your experience. Also, when you get on the trail, learn how to use FarOut to navigate your way back onto the trail if you wander off a bit. Tip number 6, make some kind of list of water sources for maybe the first 100 miles. And right before you hit the trail and during your hike, make sure you check the comments to see what others have said about the quality and quantity of water at the source. So this year we're hiking the last 150 miles of Northern California and Oregon. And so I've created an Excel spreadsheet that identifies the water sources and camping spots. And this allows me to loosely plan our hiking days. Although I realize once we hit the trail, a lot can happen that might change our plans. It gives me a sense of how I might structure my days, and most importantly, how much water I'm probably going to need to carry on the hike. Tip number 7, make another list or spreadsheet listing the post offices or the businesses that accept resupply boxes. If you're sending a box to a lodge, gas station, restaurant, church, you might want to double check the address and either call ahead or check the FarOut comments to see if they're still accepting packages. Some places, like the Crater Lake Post Office, for example, transfer their packages to a store. So I wanted to confirm the hours of the store and its location, and I put that on my spreadsheet. Okay, tip number 8, remember to leave your lighter and fuel canister at home. I knew one hiker who accidentally packed her fuel canister in her luggage and faced some serious fines from the FAA. So figure out some kind of way of reminding yourself to leave your fuel canister and lighter at home. Maybe put a Post-it on the door before you leave, or write no on your fuel canister, some kind of way to remember, because you don't want to start your trip with a visit to the FAA. Okay, tip number 9, make sure you have your prescription meds and vitamins and a plan to refill your prescription along the trail. Tip number 10, if you're leaving a vehicle in storage, disconnect your battery so that it has enough juice to start when you come home. I didn't do that last year and I came home to a dead battery. I couldn't believe I left my battery connected before I left on my trip. Okay, tip number 11, zip lube your zipper pulls on your sleeping bag, your tent, your puffy jacket. If your backpack has pockets that have zippers on them, this will extend the life of your zippers. And especially with your tent, you're going to want to extend the life of your zippers, or maybe you'll replace the pulls somewhere along the trek. But the last thing you want to do is have a split zipper when you're in mosquito country like in Oregon or Washington. That could make things really miserable. Tip number 12, practice using your micro spikes and ice axe. Make sure your micro spikes fit your shoes. Recently, I inadvertently grabbed a pair of medium-sized micro spikes for a glacier hike, and when I got to the glacier, I was bummed. But somehow I made them stretch over my size 15 shoes. So make sure you have the right size ice axe, micro spikes, and practice using those tools if you have snowy conditions at home. Okay, those are my 12 tips, but I have one more important tip as a bonus tip. Most people often ask me this question: how do I resupply my shoes? Generally, my shoes last between 350 to 450 miles, probably less in the Sierra because of all the water crossings we had to take. So what I did is I ordered my shoes through REI. About 10 days before I knew I wanted a new pair of shoes, I would place an order to REI and then have them sent to general delivery to a post office box, a week to 10 days up the trail. I would also call REI immediately after my order and ask that they be sent USPS, not UPS. I also asked them to record in their computer system my request for shoes along the PCT to be sent USPS. On one occasion, REI sent my shoes via UPS, and I had a difficult time tracking them down because the post office didn't accept UPS. Well, wild people, I hope these 12 tips help you prepare for your long distance hike. Please remember to subscribe to this channel, comment, share, or hit the notifications button. And until we meet again, live wildly, my friends.